I'm Collette Hill, and this is a hip opening yoga sequence. We're going to start in a child's pose, big toes together, knees wide, already opening up through the hips with the legs externally rotated. You'll press your hips firmly back towards your feet, press your hands down and forward away from you, creating a stretch in your spine. Land in your practice, just take a few breaths to get settled, and think about reaching your rib cage out away from your hip bones. Take another round of breath. And then we'll lift up into tabletop pose, hands and knees. Align your joints so your wrists are right underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. Inhale, open up through your chest, draw your heart forward. Exhale, round your back like a rainbow towards the ceiling in cat pose. Inhale, tilt your tailbone up, draw your sternum forward as you look up. Exhale, round your spine, pull your core center up and in. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, round your back, cat, tuck your toes. And then lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Press into each finger so that you're grounded through your hands. Draw energy up through your tailbone and then root down through your legs from your sits bones to your heels. Inhale, lift your right leg towards the sky. Bend your knees, stack your hips open, and start to circle your thigh bone around in your hip socket, almost like a spoon in a bowl. Inhale as you stretch your legs straight back. Step outside of your right pinky finger. Lift your chest up so you broaden across your collarbone and energize through your back quadriceps so your heel is pushing towards the back edge of your mat. Press your palms into the ground, downward facing dog. Switching sides, lift your left leg towards the ceiling. Bend your knee, open your hips, and again stir your thigh around, circle around inside the hip. Reach your leg long behind you, breathe in. Step outside of your pinky finger. Lift from your belly to your sternum. Energize your back leg, press back through your heel. Take a breath. Downward facing dog on your breath out. Once again, lift your right leg back behind you. This time you'll step right between your thumbs at the top of your mat. Keep your hands on the ground, but spin your back heel down so your legs are like warrior two, front heel to back arch alignment. You can walk your hands towards the upper left corner of your mat, so your hands will likely leave your mat onto the floor. As you lengthen through your spine, you want to think about scooping your hip underneath you so that your front knee stays in line over the top of your foot, and keep the back pinky edge of your foot rooted so there's a little lift through the arch. Take another round of breath. Wide leg forward fold. Take your hands towards the wide edge of your mat. Turn all 10 toes towards the long edge. You want to hug your outer hips in towards the midline, root through the pinky edges of your feet, and then lengthen down through the crown of your head. On a breath in, lift halfway up. Come into a runner's lunge facing the top of your mat, and you'll lower your back knee to the ground. We'll take Anjaneyasana, option to put your hands on your blocks, option to reach your arms towards the sky. You'll squeeze your front foot and your back knee towards each other, almost like you're pulling your mat together. And then tone your core to lift your ribs up away from your waist. Take a big breath in. Exhale, lower your hands down, downward facing dog. Switching to the left side, stretch your left leg up and back. Again, step right between your hands at the top of your mat so your shin bone is perpendicular to the floor. Dial your back heel onto the floor, walk your hands to the upper right corner. So all of this length that you're finding in your spine is similar to down dog, and we're still maintaining this energy of scooping the hip underneath so your front knee stays in line over the middle of your foot. Wide leg forward fold. Once again, come towards the wide edge of the mat. Parallel feet. There's an energy of hugging the outer hips, the greater trochanters, in towards the midline of the body, lengthening from your tailbone to your crown. Take a breath in, lift halfway up. Runner's lunge, face the front of the mat. And lower your right knee to the ground. Anjaneyasana, low crescent moon lunge. Stabilize through your legs, again hug to the midline, almost like scissor blades that you're trying to close. And then lift your rib cage up and out of your pelvis. Take a big inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. Reach with your right leg to the sky, and we'll come into pigeon pose. You'll take your shin across the front edge of your mat. There's an external or outward turning rotation of the front thigh. Hip bones are square to the front of the mat, and your back leg is long with your heel in line with your back hip. From there, you can either stay up on your hands or fold forward towards your elbows. This is a nice place to really collect your breath, to pause, to check in with how you're feeling, what's coming up as you open up through your hips. Take maybe about 5 breaths here. Allow your shoulders to soften. And just notice what's coming up. The hips carry a lot of our emotional experience. They're connected to the second chakra, which is the water element. We'll take another breath and we'll lift back through downward facing dog. Lift up with your left leg to the ceiling and bring your shin forward. Again, there's a turning outward, external rotation in the front thigh. The pelvis is squared towards the front of the mat and the back leg is long. From there, you can fold forward over your shin. So if you think of this element of water, it flows through, just like emotions are constantly flowing through. Instead of getting hooked on any emotion or creating a story around it, can you simply be in a place of observing and allowing it to just move through? Taking about 5 breaths, just letting yourself settle in. Notice what you're experiencing. We'll take another breath and finish in downward facing dog. After your downward facing dog, you may take it into Shavasana, child's pose, or a seated meditation, or continue with your practice. Thanks so much for joining. Namaste.